Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today I'm playing the Ferdinand that grew up because that's exactly what the Ho-Re-1 looks like. A tall Ferdinand, or I guess a Ferdinand that's kind of been clapped from the side in a way. Although it definitely grew very long as well as strong with regards to its height, I guess. Although it's more tall than strong, really, I would say. Look, I digress. After 2,000 plus YouTube videos, trying to come up with interesting narratives and titles is definitely a challenge, but don't really want to spoil the magic behind the scenes. And the magic today is going to be in the game that we have in this Tier 9 Japanese tank destroyer. So the Ho-Re-1 is one of the best performing Tier 9 tank destroyers. It's right up there with similar tanks, such as the T-95, the Tortoise, and the WZ-111, the Tier 9 Chinese tank destroyer. And all of these vehicles do well because they have really good frontal armor and guns that you don't want to sit in front of. Yeah, it's pretty simple that when it comes to tanks, right? Having big old armor and a gun that you don't want to sit in front of is usually the way that things work out with regards to tanks that you don't want to have to fight, right? And the Ho-Re-1 is no exception to that formula. Although I have to admit, I'm wondering why this BZ-176 in front of me isn't trying to get the T-34-100. And oh man, that's a disappointing start. We missed the shell on the T-95 at the beginning of the battle, and then we missed that. Although, albeit pixel snipe on the T-34-100. And then we failed to go through the T-95 as well. The T-45 is asking for help, and I tell you what, I think I need some help with my RNG. Like, this tank, it's meant to be the Ho-Re-1. Surely it's meant to have really good karma and be able to work out, right? No, that doesn't seem to be the case. Although, things could always be worse. You could be the BZ-176, who just had two T-95s absolutely rip their tank apart. But oh gosh, I'm trying to think about whether I could save the repair kit there, and those T-95s were turning a lot faster than I would want them to, so we're not going to hang out in an alleyway against two T-95s, which is the vehicle along with the Tortoise that have the best win ratio of the Tier 9 TDs. So there are tanks like the Ho-Re-1 that have not super armor, but effective armor. This thing's got like 300 millimeters of armor on the structure of this tank, which is outrageous. So if you can manage to hide the hull, just this part of it is just absolutely amazing. Although be warned, it's very flat. So it's kind of weird in a way that you either bounce or you don't. And now I know that all armor in the game is like that. Either the shell goes in or the shell doesn't. There's no half pens, unless you're looking at high explosive shells, for example. But when something's that flat, it's kind of as simple as, do they have 300 millimeters of pen? If they do, then it's a 50-50. If they don't, then it's not. It's more of a case of tanks that have armor that's angled means that you can kind of try and make use of it. And while with the Ho-Re-1, you can manage to angle the vehicle, use its 7 degrees of gun depression, but that barely improves the turret front because AP shells will have 5 degrees of normalization. The strength, I guess, is when you are using the 7 degrees of gun depression against heat rounds that have no normalization, then your structure armor there does become a lot better. Boy, I love this Overlord skin. Do not submerge above this line. It's going to be quite a deep puddle to submerge this tall boy. And being tall in World of Tanks is not very useful when it comes to things like camo or hiding yourself behind small objects, but what it does mean is that when you find a hull of a tank to be able to shoot over, it can be a good opportunity. So this T-95 seems to be incredibly focused at shooting the tanks down towards my southwest. My team is down by 3 kills right now, so I want to do everything that I can to get back into this game. And you know what? If I have a T-95 just sit there, over-aim at the vehicles behind me, and that's going to give me an easy opportunity to go after them. And I know I have the rate of fire on the T-95 here. I have better damage per minute or comparable damage per minute, but because I have 650 alpha and not 750, and I'm using a gun rammer and vents, I know that I'm going to have the reload on that vehicle. And with, I think is that 3 shots now into a T-95, actually 4 shots into a T-95, I was starting to feel a little bit more optimistic about this game, even though we're still down by 2 frags. Although, we are assaulting on Ghost Town, so we're going to have to destroy all of the enemy vehicles, or we're going to have to cap the base if we want to secure this one. We don't have the luxury of defending like the enemy team do. So, all in all, the Ho-Re-1, I think this is a fabulous Tier 9 tank destroyer. It's this real sweet spot. It has Ho-Re-3 style gameplay at Tier 10. It's definitely worse in pretty much most regards, especially with lacking that angled frontal armor and the incredible gold pen that you do get, which is like 360 millimeters of AP pen on that tank. But you've still got 325 on this vehicle for your premium rounds, which definitely isn't as good as something like a Jagdtiger, which I believe has 356 APCR. But remember, this one will have the extra normalization compared to those APCR rounds. Okay, so finally, in the cap circle, still down by 3 tanks, and I do feel quite surrounded. We've got tanks to the west, they've got opportunities to come from the north, and so that means that I have to be aggressive. And oh dear, no matter how much aggression we have here, it's not going to affect my RNG by the looks of it. And we leave the IS-3 on 30 hit points, and I'm thinking, should I trundle around the corner and go and ram this player? But then I think, uh-oh, T-95. And luckily the T-95 doesn't take a swing at me. Oh gosh, there's a Conway who's also advancing. I probably should have been able to have a swing at that British Tier 9 tank destroyer, but luckily for me, the 112 is helping me out. The IS-5 decides to push around the corner, and knowing that I've got a long reload, looks like the IS-3 is going to. However, we're going to wiggle our hull, try and make it awkward. They try to track us, they're unable to do so. IS-3 avoids getting rammed, but he can't avoid my big 150. We can't even check in the game now. They've actually patched it. I believe it's like a 150 millimeter gun on this vehicle. You'd hope so for something that hits for 650. And irrelevant of taking maybe 600 damage from the Conway, which are actually lucky we don't, as they shoot our gun and they don't shoot our hull, probably with a little bit of bad RNG. We are now up to a Top Gun. And finally, our team is in the lead after that flurry of kills on the IS-5, the IS-3, and the Conway. And while it doesn't add much to my damage total, it definitely adds to our chance of being able to take down this round of World of Tanks. Okay, so the 112 is now going to come and assist me in the cap circle. I'm hoping that the 704 is going to push around. We've marked out where the artillery is likely to be on the map, and oh yeah, there we go. So I aimed down here, and in retrospect, I think he was slightly more to the right, but yeah, good luck trying to fire over that ridgeline. I do mark where I think he was on the map, let my team know. It's important to do so with that, and just hoping that we don't get interrupted. There are still some quite scary tank destroyers on the enemy team. The Super Hellcat has a turret, so if he comes in and makes a play, that could be quite tricky even on a 1,100 hit points. And with a broken gun right now, that is just adding to the RNG. And so we're going to have to pray that the Hori 1 manages to get through this. Although I have to admit, I'm thinking a bit about being a little bit greedy here, boys and girls. And what? I actually, even though I was thinking about greedy and leaving the cap circle there, I think the artillery would have interrupted me anyway. So 5-head tactics. We're going to repair our gun finally, wait for the Stura Mill until we're fully aimed, and pick up our 7th kill of the game. Things are starting to look great. I tell the TL7 that I'm going to help them. I ping the map again and say where the self-propelled gun is. The self-propelled gun takes another swing at the TL7. Looks like they might have tracked them there, but luckily the TL7 still left on 49 hit points, which is enough for them to be a proficient scout. And I'm hoping that the Hori 1 can manage to get a cheeky Bradley Walters medal. Are we going to get it? Are we going to get it? Are we going to get it? Boom, baby, yes. The GW Panther is vanquished. 8 kills, Bradley Walters secured. The TL7 presses affirmative in the chat. Twice, I press affirmative back, and I am just going to give them all of the assistance damage there. Getting the Pascucci's medal and 9 kills. And this is just bizarre. I've had 2 pools medals in the last week, and I was sitting there thinking, no, it can't be. We can't get 3 pools medals in a week, right? There's no opportunity that we can get 10. Interestingly enough, the TL7 on my team seems to think I can. And the TL7 says, lay him pool. And you know what? I'm not that greedy. I'm not resetting the cap in this scenario. I'm not going to drive out the cap circle. There's, I'm not messing about. I'm very greedy, but the idea of going for a pools medal in this scenario and then possibly throwing the game, that's not something I was going to do. And I say, you could get him. Come on. I like my pools medals, but I'm definitely not that greedy in the scenario. And the Hori 1 takes down a mammoth carry, managing to pick up, pretty much destroying 2/3 of the enemy team and ending in the cap circle as well. And we saw that even though the T-95 might have the alpha, and even though the T-95 might have the armor, the Ferdinand that grew up is the victor, at least for today. And if any of you reasonably skilled players out there, experienced players of World of Tanks, are looking for a tank destroyer line to go through, you really can't go wrong with the Japanese tank destroyers. However, what I will say is that while they are very good, they just seem to lack a little bit of the originality and the soul of the 2 German lines. And so, funnily enough, a tank like the Ho Re 1 might actually be lacking in spirit. So nice Radley Walters medal here for our 9 kills. Pascucci for destroying the artillery. You might see a lack of a high caliber, and that's not because somebody did more damage than us. It's because I managed to bounce a shot off the BZ-176 at the start of the battle. And that's a legacy of back in the day when you used to be able to do team damage. The Wargaming didn't want people to think that you could get a high caliber medal by dealing damage to your allies. And so if you did hit an ally, back in the day doing team damage to them, now just harmlessly bouncing off them, you can't get the Pools medal. And while I fired a lot of gold rounds in this game, it's really one of the strongest points of your tier 9 TDs and your tier 10 tank destroyers. And if you're not willing to use ammunition that is kind of overkill for the scenario, well, you're probably best to play something with a turret. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that was it for today. Really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And if you're watching this video as it goes live on Monday, I'm going to be going live all day on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby with brand new drops tokens so you can get yourself some fat loot at the same time. So really looking forward to seeing you all live right now. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic and hopefully I'll see you soon.